Yo, we back again today, guys. What's up, man? We're just gonna keep it on moving. Yes, we're gonna keep it on moving. Today I had a couple bananas, I had a couple organic bananas or whatever. So I've been eating them, so I got a lot of energy today. So we're going to talk about another black group, yes, you guessed it, called the Afro how can I say this? I don't know if I can even say this name, but Suriname, the country of Suriname, South Africa, so the Afro Surinamese, right? So the Afro Surinamese is the African descent population that lives in South America and in the country of Suriname. And the Maroons, or slaves who ran away from the plantations, as well as the Creoles, are mixed with African and European ancestry. So this makes up the African population, or the black population in Suriname. And the peoples retain a big amount of their African culture, like African spirituality, sexuality, and also gender roles as well. Most of the peoples retain their African culture and shielded it from most of the white culture that was trying to invade their culture. So the people speak a Creole as well, as the Maroons speak another language called Saramacans. And most of the people's ancestors come from Central and West Africa, such African ethnic groups like the Yoruba, the Akan, and the Fanti. Now, these peoples were brought from different parts of Africa due to some Dutch peoples in the slave trade business, and they needed a place. The Dutch people needed a place for their plantation, and in 1667, after working out a treaty with Great Britain, the British gave the Dutch the northern coast of South America, and in exchange, Great Britain wanted New York, and they received that from the Dutch. So this is when Suriname became a slave colony, and African slaves were shipped in with haste to work on the sugar and coffee plantations for the Europeans. And once the slaves got used to their surroundings, they made space for the African religion and their spirits to practice. And they would ask the spirits to help them free themselves from slavery as well. So the slave owners were amused by this. They, thought, as they always did, oh, look at these, Africans and, their spirituality, or their, whatever derogative names they probably had for them, jungle bunnies, whatever it might have been, whatever they would have called them. But they found it amusing, and they thought that they were wrong for it because, they were obviously slaves and they had different beliefs, but they thought it was amusing and interesting. So the slave owners would, would hold a dance party every Saturday night in amusement and wonder as well. And the Maroons escaped captivity and fled inward and created several independent tribes, with the buildup of different things like the African spirituality. And after that happened, then they escaped to the interior of the country. Now, with their isolation and them moving into the interior of the country, they maintained a lot more African culture than Africans that didn't and lived in the city or live in the city did. And in the 1990s, the Maroons fought for their land and rights, in which they had long occupied the interior of the country. And in 2007, they won this case, and this case took to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And the people's diet and food also consists of the cuisine shaped by, the West African and Central African heritage as well. And cinnamon, rice, peanut butter, as well as plantains, cornmeal, and other root vegetables native to the lands are used in their cuisine. And their dishes include cassava balls with codfish, banana meal porridge with pork, plantain dumplings, and cornmeal cakes, all which date back to the slavery and slave time period of this country. Now, the women are also very famous too, and they're known for their kodomis, traditional dresses. And these dresses were not always around, and they were developed through the jealousy of the slave owner's wife. So the slave master could not resist the natural, glorious curves of a black woman. I just had to say it like that because it's the truth. And, he would rape her or sleep with her very often, or them very often. So the tight-fitting rags and sheets were tempting for the men. So the wives made the African women wear big, baggy kodomis. And these kodomis were soon customized by the African women and took on different meanings as time went along. The meats are used on different occasions like funerals and weddings, and at one time, the way the dress was worn would tell different messages. Like if the strings on the back of the dresses were hanging down, that means that a woman was single. But if the same two strings were tied up, that meant that the woman was taken, and so on and so forth. So they're very, very famous for those. You should definitely check out a couple of them. You'll see them at the end of the video as well. And today we learned about another African descent ethnic group. We're gonna keep it moving as we always do, and one day I'm gonna get down there, around there, because I always wanted to go to Brazil anyway and hang out with some Afro-Brazilians. So one day I'm going to get down there and check them out and try to go to the interior and see the traditions of African traditions that have been passed down. A lot of spirituality, African religions, I noticed are very, very big and are very, very big in South and Central and the Caribbeans, America, South Central America and the Caribbeans, as well as some parts of the South and North America. So it's just very exciting to see that there's Africans that are still proud to be African and still know who they are and still kept their spiritualities and their religions and weren't colonized and changed into whatever the religion would have been at that time, whether it be Christian or Muslim or whatever the religion would have been at that time in that area. So today we learn about other people. As always, keep learning as much as you can. To all my people out here in the world, unite, let's stay together, let's stick together, and let's learn about each other. And as I was always told, the more knowledge you have, the more power you have. But when you're young, you don't realize this. So for all my young viewers, it's not nerdy or geeky or not cool to know about the world and to know about your people. So the more you learn, the more that you have power. I guess you could say that, right? But let's say analogy. So one of them, right, is that you give a fish to a man, he eats for a day. But you teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That's all I'm gonna say to you guys. To all my peoples out there, as always, be safe. One love. Peace.
What's up, what's up?
Hey!
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.
African!